Hi, I'm Ryan Malyar, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Arts for the Masses. The arts are alive in Massachusetts, and I'm so lucky to be able to bring them right to you through WMCT TV in Marlborough, Massachusetts. Today's show's a little different because we're not in the studio, which is under renovation. Stay tuned and see how that looks. It's going to be gorgeous. But we are in the lobby of the Concord Players. Today, I'm joined by Jamie Cook, who is the director of an upcoming production of Songs for a New World. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you so much for having me, Ryan.
So Songs for a New World is a show that lives in my mind because I went to school for musical theater. And it is full of just fabulous songs that stand on their own. Mm-hmm. They each tell these fabulous little stories and give you glimpses into these very unique characters that are also very relatable, especially for a college-age student. Tell me what Songs for a New World is.
Yeah. Songs for a New World, I think, is just about the human experience and how we all have these shared experiences and shared stories. And I think what's so beautiful about it is usually just four actors who are up there telling these varied stories and not the same characters in every song. It also allows you to kind of see those personality types that can be so varying. The perfect example, I think, is the Woman 2 track, as they call her, where it spans all the way from, modern day New York City divorcee, just trying to kind of come to terms with that, all the way to a disgruntled Mrs. Claus. And they're all things we feel. And even though she's Mrs. Claus, it's still just that feeling of being alone. So I think it is this beautiful just testament to storytelling and to the human experience.
The lyrics at the beginning of the show, a new world, what calls across the ocean. And it's about being on the brink of something.
Yep.
And those are the sort of moments that as a college student, I related to the most, mm-hmm. that we're doing something new, something is changing. But that theme really continues throughout the entire show. It's everyone that's always, all these characters are on the brink of something.
And the lyric that really speaks to me about that is also in the opening, but they do, it's about that one moment, the moment before it all becomes clear. And I think that is this moment of clarity that we all have before a big decision has to be made. And that is what all these songs are about. It's that snapshot right before you get the courage to make the big decision.
And that uncertainty. And you see these characters work through these pieces. I'm just putting this out there because if you are not familiar with this music, mm-hmm. this is music that is so important to musical theater performers. And for you to have a chance to actually see fabulous performers deliver these in a fresh way, fresh ears to you for the first time if you don't know these pieces, it's going to be phenomenal.
It's every night. I mean, I watch it every night, and every night I'm blown away in a new way. And I think something that's so interesting, a lot of our cast are like you and I, people who went to school for theater and were so passionate about it. And you grow up singing these songs, and they're in your recitals, and they're in everything. And then all of a sudden, you're in your 30s, and you think, God, I had no idea what that song was about. Just 10 years later, and you look at it now and it's just a whole new world, seeing it and hearing it, and you get to feel different things all these years later. And for our actors, you get to feel it in every number. You get to kind of reimagine it and re-feel that passion.
I'm sort of jealous of audience members that aren't so familiar with the piece because some of it shatters you. Walk me through maybe one of the songs that's has a little more heartbreak in it.
Yeah, the one that I think is the most important song in the show and is King of the World. So I think King of the World is this beautiful number that is all about being held captive just for trying to make a difference. And I think when this show came out almost 20 years ago, it was a very different world, but that has never changed. We are still living in a world today where simply by speaking out with no violence attached to it, no threat or anything, they are prosecuted and held and, stopped from being able to be successful just for wanting to make a difference and help people. And that number, that song is sung by the brilliant Lucas Cora in our production. And for us, when I was lucky enough actually to be on the selection committee for Concord for this season, and I did not intend on directing Songs for New Worlds, but with it being the 250th anniversary of Concord, we really wanted to put something forward that really represented what we think is important about that date. And to me, I think America did make that big choice to branch out and make a big choice and head for the new world and find independence. And that is why I suggested maybe we add a fourth show to our season, which we've never done before. And
in terms of like historical context in the show, we have the second number, which I think on the decks
Deck of a Spanish sailing ship in 1492.
Tell me a little bit about this little historical nugget in the show.
Well, we get great bookends of history because we get on the deck of a Spanish sailing ship to start the show off, which is that first crossing to America, and you get on the ships with Columbus, and you get this sense of unease and all these people who just took the leap with no security that it was going to be okay, but they just needed to find a better life. And it's sung by Chantel O'Brien, who is brilliant. And it really is that feeling also of responsibility of like, these people look to me for reinforcement and they look to me for encouragement, and I do my best. But at the end of the day, I don't know what's on the other side, which is so important. And at the end of that number, they see the light come over the horizon and they see America for the first time, and it's beautiful. And then at the very end of the show, we get a number that is especially poignant to Concord because it's Flag Maker 1775,
How can I forget? Right.
which is Betsy Ross here in this region creating the first American flag and being here in America left behind while your husband, your son, your neighbors, your family are off at war, fighting for independence from the British, which is exactly what we are celebrating here in Concord. That song is sung by Kelly Hodge, who, again, bringing personal experience to it, is a mother whose son is recently heading off to college, and you just feel so not hopeful, for lack of a better term. You just feel like all you can do is sit and hope that when you're needed, you can do what's right.
Well, that's fascinating, the parallels that you can draw as well that connect us to history. Because often history lives in a book on a dusty shelf. And to find ways that we can connect to these people that seem so distant and so far removed from us is what's beautiful and something that really only music and theater can do sometimes.
And one thing we really tried with this show, which I'm particularly proud of, and I think it's really important with theater, rather than doing it with 4, we're actually doing it with 8. So the reason why we did that, I've only ever seen Songs for New Worlds with 4 30-year-olds. 4 people, all of very similar ages and experience. And I don't think that's what the show's about. I think it's about the full human experience and getting to, feel that fear and that nervousness from more types of people. So we've doubled the cast to fledge out some of those voices, and each person gets a big feature that really fits with them. And I think it allows us to draw those connections for ourselves to clarify the roles. We gave them kind of characteristic names with the theme, characters never repeat, but characteristics do. So for instance, the Woman One track, as it's normally called, is called The Giver for us, because that is a person in all of her songs who gives everything for everyone and keeps very little for herself to her own detriment. Same thing with Kelly, who sings Flag Maker. Her track is called The Mother, because it's people who are there supporting even when it's not their big solo. They're always present in the numbers to support the people who need it. And I think we can all see ourselves in those.
Yeah. Something that also strikes me about this music as I piece all of it together in my mind from repertoire recitals and things like that is that the uneasiness, but also the optimism. They always want to achieve something. They always want to take that leap. And that's something I think we can all take with us as well.
Absolutely. And I think a big thing for me, I always say to them, you have to earn the joy and vice versa. No one wants to feel someone just drowning in their stress or anxiety or grief. You want to see someone persevere and be bold and be brave and make those big decisions, which I think is something we can all take for ourselves, is be brave and make those big choices.
So as a musical theater lovers that we are, I think we need to, of course, mention the composer and lyricist, Jason Robert Brown, who in my book can really do no wrong. And we know him from shows like The Last 5 Years. What else were we saying?
Bridges of Madison County and Parade, which just came through Boston on its big tour.
So how does this show fit into the scope of the other works that we know him from?
Yeah, so he self-proclaims it as not completely a song cycle, because he didn't write all of these to go together. They were kind of pieces that he didn't know where he would put them, or individual kind of snapshots of life. But doing the show and hearing it all in order, you can definitely feel where his influences then came into those other shows. You know, Last 5 Years is one of my favorites. And there are definitely moments of the characters of Jamie and Kathy.
She cries.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I'm not afraid of anything. It's such a Kathy moment of, you know, build those walls up and no one's going to get past them because I just need to be strong and brave and do it on my own. And She Cries is, I mean, classic Jamie in the last 5 years of, you know, get out of there when things get tough and, you know, protect yourself.
So the challenge then becomes for you as a director, here's a show that has been sort of acknowledged that doesn't have a clear arc. How do you work that on stage to create an evening of theater?
So we really worked hard with that idea of like holding on to the characteristics that make the track make sense, but really differentiate them. And we're using a lot of brilliant work from our costume department here at Concord to make that happen. We're really trying to set all of those big numbers into...
We're about to have a sits pro,
it's okay.
folks.
It's live theater. It's a live interview. We love it. They really figure out the time periods and settings that make it work. So to kind of differentiate and give a break, we've set River Won't Flow, which is this big number about, you know, which road do you take and which path do you take in life. And we set it in the 70s, which feels like there are two clear roads in the 70s. You could either go into business and kind of go into that fit the mold, or you fought against the system that was already in place. You had Greenpeace and you had, you know, the protesting and everything. So we set it in New York in the 70s to really feel like you're seeing another snapshot and it's not this confusion of, oh, I just saw that person in that number.
That sounds much more cohesive to me as well, because when I've seen little clips of it online, it looks sort of like a showcase sometimes with people in jewel tone shirts. Not that there's anything wrong with, you know.
No, it's solid top, black bottom, and you're just moving around. It's so true. But I will say one thing, I really wanted to have a touchstone.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yes. Touch. I'm just imagining that I just insulted your customer and the opening number starts and they're all in jewel tones and I would just fall over.
It's not like that.
It's not that.
It's not that.
It's not that, folks.
It's not
that kind of show.
It's not that.
Not that.
The one thing that I really wanted to have, because I have seen it where it is confusing, where you're, you know, I just saw that person and they were here and this person was here. And one thing I wanted to do to really clarify that is there is only one real true duet written in this show, which is I'd Give It All For You, which is at the end. But those two characters, which ironically are the Jamie and Kathy adjacent roles, all of their material throughout the show is really about how you address relationships and how you figure out your relationships with one another. So I've actually done it where they are always in that same relationship. We only ever see them as those people because it becomes the moment of they're on stage, they're the same people the whole time. They're trying to process being together and all of that, and everything else is different. And I think too, these big nerve-wracking moments don't have to be going to a new country or, you know, changing the world. It can just be, do you go back to someone that you loved, that you've broken up with and parted ways with? And I think those are just as scary.
Maybe even more so.
Yeah. And I think the vulnerability of really pulling the light in on a relationship while these huge numbers are happening around it makes it feel relatable to the audience, and it doesn't feel all a spectacle. It is just a little teeny lens on a relationship.
This all sounds so fabulous. I can't wait to see this. Tell the folks where they can find out more information about tickets and all that good stuff.
Songs for New World is running for just one weekend at the Concord Players at 51 Walden Street in Concord, Mass. Shows are June 20th, 21st, 22nd. We have 2 shows on the 21st, 2 p.m. and 8 o'clock. And on Sunday, we have just the matinee. You can go to the Concord Players website for more tickets and information, and everything will be on there.
And everything's coming up roses.
Everything.
Excellent. Thank you so much for meeting with me today.
Thank you for having me.
And best of break all the legs.
Thank you.
Just break every leg.
Thank you. We will.
Excellent.
All of them.
Yep. That brings us to the end of another episode of Arts for the Masses. I'm Ryan Malyar. If you're an arts organization here in Massachusetts or beyond, please be in touch. I'd love to have an interview just like this to showcase the wonderful work that you're doing for your community. Take care.